listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting from North Idaho, an actual free state. I happen to be your conservative Sherpa, and what kind of a guy is that? That's a guy who guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, globalist, lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal with bombast and shenanigans. Holy moly. I'm guessing you guys just came off of watching Trump's speech. Now, I'm not going to go through the rest of the spiel. I wish that I had been around long enough after that to be able to get all the clips, because in about an hour, and definitely by tomorrow, the sound bites and the videos off of this, with the three Trump quips that are, they're going to go far, deep, and wide. They are going to be disseminated like nobody's business. And the other thing is, throughout that, you had this, cannot you little fucking infants, you little puerile pieces of filth, can't you manage to do something other than that? You couldn't stand or clap for the kid with cancer. You couldn't stand or clap with the other various victims that were there. You have to ask yourself, how reprehensible are these people? Well, look, you and I both knew they were going to screw the pooch on this. They'd already said prior that they were going to wear, pink dresses, pink pussy hats, whatever the hell. But they showed themselves for what they were. They held up signs. Well, these are the actual signs that should have been on the flip side. But when you have people that are so terribly rotten, that are so terribly in the tank, and they can't even find it within themselves to stand up and cheer people, honest to God Americans, who are deserving of that. You're going to get a great video of the kid getting sworn in as a Secret Service agent. You're going to get a great video of that young guy who Trump said, you know what, you're in. You are in right there. And you're going to get the video of the cancer victim kid tapping that guy on the shoulder and high-fiving his ass. It doesn't get any better than that. And these sour infants sit in their chairs because they have yet to recognize that, as Obama said, elections have consequences. And they don't get it, And the other thing is, the corollary to that is, I say great. I say that's wonderful. That's superior in all respects. Because at this point, this is what we have. A $36 trillion, $36.5 trillion national debt. And the Democrats have zero interest in attempting to mitigate that. They despise Doge with a depiction that cannot be quantified. These people don't live in reality. Everything that they've done has been done against actual Americans. They love criminals. They love illegal invaders. If you're a taxpayer, as far as they're concerned, you need to sit down, shut the fuck up, open up your wallets, and keep paying. Tonight, we're going to be talking about wallets. Tonight, the show is, and maybe some of you may be thinking, okay, more Ukraine. Well, I couldn't get the sound clips, the cool sound clips that everybody and their brother are going to get tomorrow. Because there were a ton of them. Absolutely. SHR Media is in chat and welcoming folks. And SHR agrees. Yeah, you know what? They are filth. You know, and the point right here is made. These are ignorant, ridiculously far left people. And the far left is driving them like never before. If you didn't get the message via a sledgehammer in the Electoral College and the popular vote, you're not going to get the message by 2028. And with luck, you're not going to get the message next year in the midterms. You know, as SHR says, people who vote in the middle are asking themselves, particularly if they voted last time for the Democrats, it's like, why did I do this? Why wasn't it so clear to me as now? And what am I going to do next year in midterms, much less 2028? These people are not only not getting it, they're foul. They're absolutely foul. And I said a long time ago, what we saw in 2016 was a soft coup against an individual running for president, and a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and a sitting president. And it continued, and it just never stopped. And all along the way, all the Democrats and the American media maggots were saying, see, evil, the personification of evil right there. When finally we're beginning to understand, oh no, that's not evil. And I'm telling you, folks, it's not just Democrats versus Republicans, and it's not conservatives versus leftists, in my opinion. And that's why I have a show. All the comments here are my opinion and my opinion only. It's good versus evil. It's how you continue with civilization, or you shoot civilization in the head just to make a point. And I am truly, firmly committed in believing that leftists hate this country. You know, and that's so over the top, BZ. That's such hyperbole, BZ. I love to screw with that word. No, it's not. No, it's not. After we see a night like tonight, when you can't even find it within yourself to cheer, stand up, or applaud for an individual or a series of individuals who are well worth doing all of that and more. It's absolutely incredible. Let's go to this. I think I may have come up with a new word, woke, B-W-O-K-E. And that's sort of a weird combination of broken and woke. And they are bloke. It's all bloke. These folks here, it's nothing but noise. They are noise. It's noise from the wrong direction. It's noise that they couldn't care less about. It's just plain noise. These folks are broken. They are broken.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
So, all these senators and Congress critters and Democrats all got the same script and all said the same thing. Not an original thought amongst any of these fuckweeds. Nothing. They just do what they're told. You know, it honestly, it almost makes you wonder, do these people even have a fucking soul? Sometimes, to be honest, I have to wonder, you know, and again, you know, there's no coordination.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency.
Okay, and do we have something similar? We sure do,
When
Chucky.
I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since
Okay, and they all got the same script. There is no original thought in any of these weasels' heads. None of it. And again, I go back to this. This is what you think is a good look in the Democrat Party right now. Lower right. Good old Schiff. And above Al Green to the right, Ted Lieu, who is truly one of the most despicable human beings issued out of California, always spell it with a K. Al Green has said immediately, he was the first advocate during 45 to say, we're going to, I'm telling you, they're going to do an impeachment again. They're going to try to do it. And Al Green will be at the core of this. How many times can you continue to be absolutely incredibly stupid about all of this? You know, but you have to say, really honestly, who cares? No one cares about you. No one cares, Democrats, because you keep being absolutely immaterial. You are immaterial, and you're shooting yourselves in the foot. And quite frankly, I'm very glad of that. I'm incredibly glad of that. Now, the other thing is, I made that intro. No one cares. Because I'm going to reveal to you what is actually, in my opinion, going on with Ukraine and Russia. Because here's a guy that's going to do some explanation. Now, these are things that no one wants to hear. No one wants to listen. No one wants to consider the slightest bit of history. Oh, hell no. So, of course, by doing this, I will be labeled, I'm Putin's puppet. Because if you offer anything, not necessarily even in defense, you know, how am I going to possibly attempt to codify that Putin's a great person? No one thinks that. And I will not be contrite over and over because it's obvious who and what Putin is. He's from the KGB. He wants to get the band back together. It's as simple as that. That's all I've got to say about Putin. I'm not apologizing. Fuck apologizing. And fuck the people that think that I need to apologize or that I am Putin's puppet. But let's hear just a little bit of history tonight, if we could, pretty please. maybe it might make a little bit of sense for about 4.5 minutes. Go.
What was Putin's intention in the war? Not the propaganda that's written about this. Oh, that they failed and he was going to take over Ukraine. The idea was to keep NATO. And what is NATO? It's the United States
US.
Off of Russia's border. No more, no less. When the Soviet Union ended in 1991, and an agreement was made that NATO will not move 1 inch eastward. Now, what happened after 1991, the United States decided there would be no end to eastward enlargement of NATO. And the decision was taken formally in 1994 when...
By the way, this is geopolitical scholar Jeffrey Sachs. And who's he speaking to? To whom? This is the great part. He's saying this. He's schooling the EU Parliament.
President Clinton signed off on NATO enlargement to the east, all the way to Ukraine and into Georgia. So the NATO enlargement, as you know, started in 1999 with Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic. And Russia was extremely unhappy about it. But these were countries still far from the border. So the next round of NATO enlargement came in 2004. With the 3 Baltic states, Romania, Bulgaria, Slovenia, and Slovakia. At this point, Russia was pretty damn upset. So as everybody recalls, in 2007, President Putin said, stop, enough. And of course, what that meant was in 2008, the United States jammed down Europe's throat enlargement of NATO to Ukraine and to Georgia. This is right up against Russia. And Russia protested because if Russia decided to have a military base on the Rio Grande or the Canadian border, not only would the United States freak out, we'd have war within about 10 minutes. And a month later, a war broke out. That gets Georgia destroyed. And starting in 2010, the U.S. put in Aegis missile systems in Poland. And
okay, stop. BZ, you're nothing but an apologist for Russia. No. I love history. But no one wants to talk about history. No one wants to acknowledge maybe Russia has reasons. Are they the right reasons or the wrong reasons? I'm not arguing that. I'm simply stating this as a geopoliticist, Sachs is so eloquently explaining here. There are reasons. And then you begin to understand what motivates people. No one wants to hear about this because to even bring it up, to even question anything about Ukraine makes you an apologist for Russia.
And then in Romania. And Russia doesn't like that. In 2010, Viktor Yanukovych was elected on the platform of neutrality. Russia had no territorial interests or designs in Ukraine at all. What Russia was negotiating was a 25-year lease for Sevastopol naval base. That's it. Not for Crimea, not for the Donbass, nothing. In 2014, the U.S. worked actively to overthrow Yanukovych. Everybody knows the phone call by my Columbia University colleague, Victoria Nuland, and the U.S. Ambassador Peter Piot. Listen to it. It's fascinating.
I don't think Cleach should go into the government. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a good idea. I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience, and, fuck the EU.
No, exactly. And I think we've got to do something to make...
You don't get better evidence. Then came Minsk, and especially Minsk II. It said there should be autonomy for the Russian-speaking regions in the east of Ukraine. It was supported unanimously by the UN Security Council. The United States and Ukraine decided it was not to be enforced. There were many thousands of deaths in the shelling by Ukraine in the Donbass. And one of the issues on the table in December 2021, January 2022, was, does the United States claim the right to put missile systems in Ukraine? And Blinken told Lavrov in January 2022, the United States reserves the right to put missile systems wherever it wants. So the war started. What was Putin's intention in the war? It was to force Zelensky to negotiate neutrality. And that happened within 7 days of the start of the invasion. Ukraine walked away unilaterally from a near agreement. Why? Because the United States told them to. The idea was that there would be...
Who was that? Who was the United States at that point?
Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, and Georgia that would deprive Russia of any international status by blocking the Black Sea. And the American senators, who are as nasty and cynical and corrupt as imaginable, say this is wonderful expenditure of our money because no Americans are dying. It's the pure proxy war. And since the U.S. talked the negotiators away from the table, about 1 million Ukrainians have died or been severely wounded. What was...
And that's what's happened. As I said, at the beginning of the show, this show is Ukraine. Cui Bono. I can tell you who. Every fucking buddy. Everyone. Except the Ukrainian proles, who they are cannon fodder themselves. I'll get into a lot more about this, but you need, I spoke a little bit about this in either early January or I believe it was late December, but with this all coalescing together, it bears a particular point that I'm going to make about Ukraine late last year, bears repeating. And then I'm also going to go here. Now, certain personnel are probably saying right around this time, oh my fucking God, not Tucker Carlson. If there's Putin's puppet, it's this dickweed right here. But I don't mind listening to everyone. And why would you? Unless you simply are running in lockstep with people. I am not that. Let's listen.
Last weekend, I had a meeting in a ski resort in the Alps, which is probably the most expensive town in the world. I was not there to ski, for the record. But the whole town is Ukrainian. You know, all the visitors are Ukrainian. And they're rolling into Air Maze and dropping $1 million in an afternoon.
What? Careful. Listen. Careful.
Through Europe, you see this. The richest people are the Ukrainians. That money is ours. It belongs to me and you and every other American taxpayer. That's where it's going. Second fact, not guess, fact is the Ukrainian military is selling a huge percentage, up to half of the arms that we send them. Half. And I'm not guessing about this. I know that for a fact.
The Ukrainians, he's saying, are selling and reselling our weapons. Wait, didn't a little sawed-off piece of shit say something similar to, well, I've lost at least half of your largesse from the United States of America. I can't possibly feature where that fucking went.
A fact, not speculation. And a lot of us winding up with the drug cartels on our border. This is a crime, what's happening. Our intel agencies are fully aware of this. You tell me they're not profiting from this. CIA is not profiting from this. Yes, they are. Can't prove that, but I believe that. What they don't know this. I know this, but they don't know this. They know this. No one is saying it. Like, no American seems aware of this. We're sending these arms to Ukraine, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's being stolen and sold to our actual enemies. Like, what the?
Like? No, not like what the fuck. Actual. What the fuck? And no one seems to complain. No one seems to be upset. You know, it's so far beyond time for torches and pitchforks at this point. How will we ever get this nation back? Because you've got a cadre of individuals called Democrats who, here's a representative, here's them in their little pink pussy hats and all this kind of stuff, can't find it within themselves to have the slightest bit of gratitude for the people that stood. I can't even repeat myself at this point. But tomorrow, if you didn't see that Trump speech and you didn't see the reactions or the non-reactions or the initial huge reactions at the very beginning, which resulted in Al Green stamping his little infantile foot and Kane out of the room. And now, impeachment. We have to have articles of impeachment. I've been bamboozled. They don't care about trying to conserve anything, including the lives of your kids. Because if it serves their purposes, your kids will bleed in Ukraine. And wait, isn't that essentially what the little sawed-off dude said, Zelensky? Your children will bleed on my soil in my country. And folks aren't even processing this. It's a grift. It's a scam. He could stop it. He could create a ceasefire. We'll get into this. But the other thing is money, lucre. It's all about the cash. And who's going to be making the cash? Should you be shocked in the fucking slightest when you see an article like this out of The Guardian, which, by the way, you didn't see in the American media maggots on this side of the pond, did you? European defense stocks soar as arms makers expect an orders boom. Imagine that. Boy, I tell you what, who saw that coming? That's hard to feature, isn't it? That's so hard to feature. Why is China, for example, saber rattling? China's economy is in the shitter. China needs a war. Why did China send a proxy ship to cut cables from Taiwan? One of the first things that you do if you're going to take an action against someone, your perceived enemy, true or not, is you want to isolate them, isolate their communications. The steps have already been taken. This is in front of you, in front of your face right now. Europe stands the chance to make some good greckles off of this. Well, who makes tanks? The UK. Who makes tanks? Germany. Who is in a consortium? Let's see, Germany, the UK, and Austria. This is big bucks. This is big business. This is big death. But you can see these folks are lining shit up already. It's lining stuff up. And then back to The Guardian. Keir Starmer, who is the British PM, an empty suit of the first order. He urges the West to keep aid flowing as U.S. announces its suspension. So we, via Trump, have said we're stopping at this point aid to Ukraine. Because Ukraine can't account for a thing, nor are they particularly interested in accounting for a thing. And if you believe Tucker Carlson, there are lots of Ukrainians over there who are getting dick-ass wealthy behind all of this and are selling the material, the goods, and the equipment that we've been sending to Ukraine. Not just money, not just pallets of cash, as Obama did in the back of a C-17 late at night over to Iran in Tehran. This is happening all in the front of our face. I haven't even addressed Doge. Well, I have. On numerous times, I have addressed Doge. And yet, this is currently, this is right in front of our faces. By the way, yes, Sean Lewis says Greckles are the official dollar of Germany. Well, it's true. That's very true. Trufak, Trufak, and pallets of cash. Trufak behind that as well. So Starmer, what did the little sawed-off piece of shit do after? I got to take a break. I'm a little long on the break, but we'll take a break right after this. What did Zelensky do after essentially Donald John Trump OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, kicked him out of the White House. Well, he got on his little personal Airbus A319. Of course, it couldn't be a Boeing. And he flew over to the UK, and Keir Starmer opened up his arms and said, "Oh, small man with black uniform resembling Castro, come on in. Hey, we're going to give you big bucks." Oh, well, they're not giving them directly bucks. They're just giving them loans. Huh. I wonder if they'll ever get repaid.
Conservative media.
What do you think?
Done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? Coming in November to SHR Media. By way of Big E Jackson, you need to check out Mission Ready Men. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man, as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson, coming this November on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. The first half hour is in the can. Thank you so kindly for watching tonight live on the SHR Media YouTube channel, the SHR Media Rumble channel on X, on KLRN Radio, at KLRN Radio. And thanks to the lustrous, he has a lustrous coat. Thanks to KLRN's Rick Robinson for carrying our show. If you wish, and I would highly suggest it, is that you jump into our sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room. And to do that, you need to go to, well, the biggest, best chat room, essentially, is at the SHR Media YouTube channel. And go there, and if you would please subscribe. Subscribe. Now, at last check, now I bigfooted Big E's show this morning at 9 o'clock, and Big E is on Tuesday and Thursday days. And I went to his chat room, to his show, and I kind of bigfooted him a little bit. Now, if you want to watch Big E, you can find him here on SHR Media. He's on it at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 Central, which is his time, and then noon Eastern. And he's on Tuesday and Thursday, Big E Earl Jackson, a great and wonderful dude. And I was in chat, and I noticed at that last time, we are 68 people away from having 500 subscribers in the SHR Media YouTube site. And we have great people on SHR. We have the Edge of Liberty, Sean Lewis. We have the fat little self, me, on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. We have the Reaver of Common Sense. We have Big E Earl Jackson. It's a great conglomeration of great people. The Reaver of Common Sense, Jersey Joe. How could I ever forget Jersey Joe? And the reason is, well, I didn't forget Jersey Joe. So 68, I'm telling you, 68 mere subscriptions. And that's when some of the algorithms kind of sort of stop screwing with us quite so much, because the bigger you get, the more YouTube and social media kind of want to be a little nicer to you, because they figure, well, we can attach more commercials and more ads to that. And so, yes, they do have some motivation. Let's go to comments right now and see what do we got. Oh, hey, look at this. Look at this. Jersey Joe is in chat. Mission Ready Men is there in chat as well. And Sean Lewis, Edge of Liberty. And oh, first of the show. Okay, the Phantom says, I think I've smashed this thing so many times. It's not working real well anymore. Oh, well, I can go get another one. The Phantom said, Reaver is the most stubbornest of the four of you. Huh, look at that. Some insight, Lost Wanderer. Ba-ding, bada-bing, bada-boom. And ha, 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 ha. Anyway, let us continue. I was talking about Ukraine. And I said at the beginning of the year, BZ, if you're going to do something for a New Year's resolution, maybe one of the things you should consider is tone down the F and S words a little bit. My background is such that that's pretty much all I ever heard bandied around in my life. Hey, look, a Jersey Joe response. Imagine that. Huh. Anyway, I've broken that rule literally hundreds of times by now. And I started out the beginning of the show because I have to admit, I was both pumped and upset. I was pumped because I just got through watching on the monitor over here And I jumped into Rick Robinson's show just very briefly at KLRN. But I was looking at the monitor up here of the speech, listening to it, and I thought, all the great cuts that I'm going to miss because I don't have a producer and all that stuff hasn't come out yet. They'll all be tomorrow. And then, folks, when I say, if you didn't see that, you missed a great speech, and the Democrats illustrated completely what juvenile little baboons they all are. They're just little stupid nematodes. They're what I quantify as the Stegosaurus. Historically, the Stegosaurus had a brain the size of a walnut, and that brain was insufficient to make its rear legs move. So it had a ganglion of nerves in its rear hips to make its rear legs move. That's who these guys are. They are the 2025 Stegosaurus. And with luck, I can only hope, pretty please, they're headed for extinction. So I got a little excited at the beginning of the show, and I bandied some words about, and I guess I really shouldn't apologize, or maybe I should, but I was excited because you can see who these people are. They illustrated quite easily and quite plainly who they are, that they can't find it within their souls to embrace the bit of good that was on display tonight. And all the people that were absolutely 100% deserving of their accolades and their applause. And they couldn't find it within themselves to do that. And it's representative, in my opinion, of what's going on with Ukraine. It's about the money. Now, I'm going to play a video a little bit later into this that illustrates who got impeached twice. Trump. Was he on video doing any of these things? No. One of the impeachments was for talking with sawed-off shit on a phone. You can't write this stuff. It writes itself. So, okay, look at this. Producers are overrated, except for executive producers. They can fire you, even if they are your own son. Uh-oh, that sounds like a story. And Phantom, thank you for supporting me. Apologizing is for the people who are in the wrong. And Sackhead Sean. Absolutely. Nailed it. You'll go, if you haven't seen it, you'll go back. I'm sure you will see all the social media cuts about it tomorrow. It was so new. I didn't have the chance to go do that. The fact, as the Lost Wanderer said, that they could not cheer and rise for a 13-year-old cancer kid is sickening. And then there was another guy who was brought to the conclave and wanted to get into West Point, and then Trump congratulated him in public live and said, by the way, you are going to West Point. Then the 13-year-old cancer kid taps that guy on the shoulder. He turns around, and the 13-year-old cancer kid in a police uniform, because he wants to be a police officer, high fives him. If that doesn't give you an allergy, honestly, I don't know what would. But it's all about the money. It's all about the greenbacks. And the Democrats not only don't want you to discover how your money has been pissed away, but anyone that discovers all this money is evil, as in Elon Musk. Okay, but stop. It's not just Elon Musk. There's a very good reason, and it'll take me a little bit, but I will illustrate for you the linkage here. The reason that retired General Mark Milley, who is, in my opinion, an American traitor, despises Trump, you're going to find out it's about the money. When people even remotely hint that it's not about the money, it's about the money. And this is true of retired General Mark Milley. Anybody remember when Milley stated he would notify Communist China if President Trump decided to act against Communist China? And from the New York Post, the same newspaper that published the truth about the Hunter Biden laptop, then had its stories wiped from the internet, then hundreds of thousands of media people in Twitter, like me, got their accounts wiped off because I was silly enough at the time to illustrate and post the New York Post story about the Hunter Biden laptop. Other digital locations, they were suppressed. I was suppressed, censored, and in many accounts, many occasions, accounts were closed permanently. I got a 30-day suspension from Twitter, which contributed later, because of that huge suspension, to me getting my ass kicked off of Twitter. When I sympathized with illegal aliens over the people that were on Martha's Vineyard, I got a big laugh out of that one. So here's some truth that I regaled before, but it's veracity. Milley admitted that he would tell Chinese general if U.S. launched an attack. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, admitted Wednesday, and this was back in September 29th of 21, that he would give his Chinese counterpart a heads up if the U.S. launched an attack against Beijing. General Milley forgot his damn place and his role in allegedly serving the United States of America. Who does that? I know. That would be a traitor for $100. Thanks, Alex. He forgot his oath, and he forgot to whom he had sworn his allegiance. Milley believed that he owed Communist China a warning. Excuse me, what in the holy fuck were you thinking? Not to the U.S., to our enemies. So, to me, this was a really clear delineator of who he was at his core, then and now. Roll with me. I'm going somewhere. He's an abject traitor. It is he who thought he was the president, that he could make policy, that he could make notifications that weren't his job. Now, why he kept his job, I have no damn idea. But see, that was Trump 45. Between 45 and 47, a big amount of learning occurred. To me, that is a clear and present violation of 18 U.S.C. 2381, which delineates very specifically what a traitor is. Hey, folks, let me ask you a question, kind of real basic, okay? What's the punishment for someone convicted of treason? I know what it is. So, what did he say? He said Trump was a dictator. So, was Trump a dictator? Did he have complete power? That's what Milley said. So, no, this is just, I almost said the F word. This is stupid. Trump was frequently opposed by damn near everybody on the opposite side of the aisle. Both parties, Republicans too. Way too many of them. He was successfully sued over a bunch of his actions. He was the subject of unending investigations by Democrats who frequently found nothing. In fact, as directly opposed to a dictator, he was impeached twice, acquitted once. I don't believe that's anything to which a dictator is subject. However, I'm going to play this video. January 23rd, of 2020, then Vice President Joe Biden crowed about his threats to pull $1 billion in loan guarantees, shoving Ukraine towards insolvency. Oh, now we're starting to see the linkulus with regard to Ukraine. And he said he was going to withhold that if Ukraine didn't fire the prosecutor, Viktor Shokin, investigating Burisma Holdings, where Biden's son, Hunter Biden, sat on the board. Okay, so anybody think of a better definition of public bribery? Because I'm going to play you the video, and it was shot in public. Then President Barack Hussein Obama, and he said it's basically Barack Hussein Obama. He's in this deal too. Of course, what happened to Joe Biden? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. War. Huh. What have you been good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. So here we go. Take it away, Joe Biden. Here comes the extortion. And the brag.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was 6 hours. I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Someone who was solid. I speak leftist, right? I bet you do too. So let me translate. Solid means somebody that wasn't going to go after his poor little boy in Ukraine. Now, if this isn't extortion writ large, quid pro quo, everybody accused, quid pro quo on Trump. So bad, boy. There it was in public for everyone to see.
And my source tonight is the Secretary of State who was in that room today, Marco.
So stop. Let's go back. This is, the cool thing about doing a show. Damn it, Jim. Okay, I'm going to have to split this video in half because I do want to hit the break at the top of the hour because certain personnel like me wearing a red Pratt & Whitney t-shirt like this. Some people have to do something fairly soon. Oh, by the way, I haven't been keeping up with comments. Mission Ready Men happens to nail it. He told the Joint Chiefs and other military officials to run all Trump's orders through him. Who? Milley. Milley did that. Also, he lied, and he didn't remove the troops from Syria as he was ordered. And pierogi. I spoke last Saturday about what pierogi is, a great Russian pastry with meat in it and onions and all sorts of good stuff. I had pierogi when I was living in San Francisco for a while. And pierogi says, CNN women hate big balls. Facts and evidence. So this is a 10-minute video. And that's the cool thing about doing a show like this is it's 2 hours. It's my show. I get to play all this stuff. And the other thing is that I love to say is I don't have to make these things up. You know, when I make some kind of an allegation or a statement, invariably, I have an article that I can present to you. I have video. These aren't my words. These are the words of the people that were actually involved in the Times. I don't need to make this stuff up. Absolutely unnecessary at this point in time. So, what people didn't hear, and I play these things on my show, if for no other reason than for me personally, because I have no memory, than to archive a lot of this stuff so that if and when I say something similar to, you don't know half of the crap that happened in that room between Zelensky and the deals that were cut. And then Zelensky goes into a room with a bunch of Democrats and they turn him around backwards, upside down, and shove him back into the meeting with J.D. Vance and President Trump and say, time to get your big boy drawers on and show them who's who and what's what. So all people saw were the 2 or 3 minutes that the American media maggots play and, oh, bad, just ambush. It's just an ambush. You want to hear the truth? Can you handle the truth? Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And my source tonight is the Secretary of State who is in that room today, Marco Rubio. Thank you so much, Secretary Rubio, for being here. We just heard from President Zelensky. He said he does not think that he owes President Trump an apology for what happened inside the Oval Office today. Do you feel otherwise?
I do, because you guys don't see, you guys only saw the end. You saw what happened today. You don't see all the things that led up to this.
So who got ambushed? In truth, it was Trump. This was to be a congratulatory setup meeting in front of the fireplace, shake hands all around. The agreement has been made. Congratulations. Now get on your A319 and get out of here. We made the deal.
So let me explain. The president's been very clear. He campaigned on this. He thinks this war should have never started. He believes, and I agree, that had he been president, it never would have happened. Now here we are. He's trying to bring an end to this conflict. We've explained very clearly what our plan is here, which is we want to get the Russians to a negotiating table. We want to explore whether peace is possible. They understand this. They also understand that this agreement that was supposed to be signed today was supposed to be an agreement that binds America economically to Ukraine, which to me, as I've explained, and I think the president alluded to today, is a security guarantee in its own way, because we're involved. It's now us. It's our interests. That was all explained. That was all understood. And nonetheless, for the last 10 days, in every engagement we've had with the Ukrainians, there's been complications in getting that point across, including the public statements that President Zelensky has made. But they insisted on coming to D.C. This agreement could have been signed 5 days ago, but they insisted on coming to Washington. And there was and should have been a very clear understanding. Don't come here and create a such scenario where you're going to start lecturing us about how diplomacy isn't going to work. President Zelensky took it in that direction, and it ended in a predictable outcome as a result. It's unfortunate. That wasn't supposed to be this way, but that's the path he chose. And I think, frankly, sends his country backwards in regards to achieving peace, which is what President Trump wants at the end of the day, is for this war to end.
It was a choice. Zelensky made a choice. There were literally backroom agreements that everyone thought, some people thought, had been etched into wood or concrete. And come back out and let's have a good congratulatory welcome in front of the press. That didn't happen.
Been as consistent as anyone can be about what his objective is here.
But what specifically do you want to see President Zelensky apologize for?
Well, apologize for turning this thing into the fiasco for him that it became.
Okay, stop. Numerous personnel, including me and Sean, and I believe Earl Jackson, and I know for a fact Rick Robinson and Jersey Joe, not Jersey Joe. He's going to be on this Friday. We all played the cut where Zelensky says "suka" under his breath, which is bitch, to J.D. Vance, which is why at that point, the female Russian ambassador cradled her head in her hands, saying or thinking, oh my God, did you just shoot us, me, you, Ukraine, in the head? And the answer is, well, as a matter of fact, yes, that's true. Sean Lewis has got to get to bed, got to go to work tomorrow. Thanks, Sean, for being here. Appreciate that. Let's continue.
There was no need for him to go in there and become antagonistic. Look, this thing went off the rails. You were there, I believe. It went off the rails when he said, let me ask you a question to the vice president. What kind of diplomacy are you talking about? Well, this is a serious thing. I mean, thousands of people have been killed, thousands. And he talks about all these horrible things that have happened to prisoners of war and children, all true, all bad. This is what we're dealing with here. It needs to come to an end. We are trying to bring it to an end. The way you bring it to an end is you get Russia to the table to talk. And he understands that attacking Putin, no matter how anyone may feel about him personally, forcing the president into a position where you're trying to goad him into attacking Putin, calling him names, maximalist demands about Russia having to pay for the reconstruction, all the sorts of things that you talk about in a negotiation. Well, when you start talking about that aggressively, and the president's a deal maker, he's made deals his entire life, you're not going to get people to the table. And so you start to perceive that maybe Zelensky doesn't want a peace deal. He says
that's true. Does he want a peace deal or not? We'll get into that when we come back, because the peace deal, and I didn't even get to Millie yet, and Ukraine, there will be linkulus in that as well. So, folks, I'm BZ. It's 3 minutes after 9 p.m. on the left coast. It's 11:03 Central, and it's 12:03 on the East Coast. And we'll be back right after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. It's the second hour. OMG, where did the first hour go? I have to tell you, quite frankly, that when I do these shows, I do have an assload of fun. Now, this is a relatively small assload of fun. The kind of assload of fun that I want is about like this. And it is visual, and there's not a wide enough scope in the camera right now to completely encompass the true assload of fun that I do have, in fact, by doing this show. The title of this particular show is Ukraine, Cui Bono. That's Latin for who benefits. Everybody benefits from war. Now, let's go back. I talked about General Mark Milley, but I was going somewhere with it. Because I also, let's see, if I'm not mistaken, where was it? Let me find this as well. War is profitable. And I indicated this at the first hour. When Ukraine's Zelensky goes to Keir Starmer at 10 Downing Street and successfully acquires what turns out to be a loan for 2.9 billion pounds, and walks away with that, all the defense makers in the EU go, yay, winning. That means we're going to get a shit ton of that money as well. And that's true. Now, from the first hour, you also heard Tucker Carlson say that he has sources indicating that while he was at a ski resort, he personally witnessed a ton of people extremely rich from Ukraine having a great, great time and entertainment value, huge entertainment value on the ski runs. And information indicated that a lot of these people are making bank selling the equipment and skimming the money that we sent to Ukraine. So it's all about the money. European defense stocks are soaring. The defense makers know this is going to be great. And then the same thing occurs to the United States. Okay, we send a bunch of equipment to Ukraine and we send them a bunch of money. And then what we end up doing is depleting our own stocks, our own arsenal for Ukraine. But you got to replace all that equipment. So the older equipment goes to Ukraine. The defense makers here in the United States of America decide, well, and they're likely told, hey, you got to ramp up production and replace the stuff we sent to Ukraine already. Now, do you possibly envision that the equipment and material, the ships, the tanks, all of that are going to be the exact same price originally purchased before it all got shipped to Ukraine? The answer is no, not just regular no, but extra crispy hard to the fuck no. It ain't going to be like that. So the money that gets sent to Ukraine ends up making a boomerang U-turn coming right back to the United States. The EU is happy. They're happy with all this stuff happening. Now let's go back to Milley. Wait, BZ. Now, Milley's a douche, and he's a traitorous douche, but I don't get the where's the linkage? Where's the linkulus with Ukraine? I don't get it. So General Mark Milley retired, all right? And then a short time later, he joins the board of JP Morgan Chase in 2024. I mean, it's like 35 seconds after he retires, not that like that was set up or anything. And what does he keep that's valuable? He keeps his security clearance. So he joins the board in February of 2024. JP Morgan Chase brought on retired General Mark Milley, former chairman of the JCS, as a senior advisor. He's a senior advisor. That's what he's paid for. So he spent 4 decades in the U.S. military. He's going to advise the board of directors of JP Morgan Chase and senior leaders and clients on dangers around the world. So CEO Jamie Dimon said that's why we brought him we enfolded him into the loveliness and the lush offices where the carpet is that thick of JP Morgan Chase. So if you weren't aware, by the way, I thought I'd tell you, JP Morgan Chase is the largest U.S. bank by assets. And Milley is going to rock even more personal cash and assets in which to embiggen his little old personal wallet with that board seat as a consultant with a top or even higher top secret clearance. Now, he retired in 2023. He has somehow, between that time, magically, mystically, jumped into the faculties of Georgetown and Princeton. He's making big coin on the speaking circuit. He landed a cushy senior advisor spot on JP Morgan Chase, and military personnel call this what? Cashing in. Oh, so he cashed in. Huh. So there are a select few, like Milley, who manage somehow, again, I say magically, mystically, to transition from a capped military top grade of $204,000 a year. That'd be damn skippy for you and me, would it not? Imagine what we could do with that per year. We could get the new toilet. I could fix the handle on the toilet in the saloon. Well, the sky's the limit. It's whatever you can possibly envision to negotiate, depending on how much you hate Trump. So Bob Woodward's book, War, which is already in all the cutout bins, for like 25 cents, which really isn't even worth that. And so Woodward brings in Milley, and Milley's labeling of President Trump a fascist. So why the doubling down of Trump being called a fascist by Mark Milley? Wait, it wouldn't be because money is involved, would it be? Okay, here's an article. BlackRock and JP Morgan Chase are backing a $15 billion investor fund to rebuild Ukraine. So people theorize, that's just a start. It would actually cost $500 billion to realistically rebuild Ukraine. After we funded all this stuff, shipped a lot of cash and equipment and tanks and combustibles and supplies to Ukraine. A coalition of investors with support from BlackRock and JP Morgan are aiming to put together $15 billion in aid to rebuild Ukraine in a new group known as the Ukraine Development Fund. They're supporting investments from state bodies and capital markets. The fund is going to bring together a consortium of investors to finance at least $15 billion of reconstruction work in the country after 2 years gone of the Russian invasion. Okay, you couldn't possibly think this little scheme was put in the works yesterday, could you? Would you? So you got to ask yourself, again, go back, Cui Bono. Who benefits? Who's had constant access to every bit of military and intelligence information regarding Ukraine for at least a decade? Well, that wouldn't be General retired Mark Milley, would it? Because though he's retired, people like him always somehow manage to retain their top secret clearances that may have stopped, by the way. And another reason why Donald John Trump, OMB Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, blew up Milley's interest. Now, JP Morgan Chase and BlackRock, Milley is like a used tampon. If he's not productive, they're going to kick him to the curb and lay him over the sink and watch him drip. So if he loses that, well, they'll find somebody else. So what happens is, shh, quiet. I happen to know this for a fact, that the computers that these guys have at home installed by some of the best former and current NSA techs around the planet That's how they get access to all the intelligence that they need, because they know people that know people, and you don't know people who know people. Millie knows people who know people. And that's why, as far as Millie was concerned, Trump 45 he could not possibly have been allowed to be Trump 47. Except, yeah, he was. And that's why we know the corrupt Ukraine laundromat never stops. The machine never quits. It keeps churning out cash like an ATM with no PIN required. You just open out your hands and collect the money from death and war. So let me distill things down to this point, because sometimes actions are actually fairly transparent. You don't want to know about it. A lot of people don't want to know about it, but not super intentionally transparent. But if you're smart, and as I indicated, you got a keyboard and you have access to your favorite search engine, here's a weird thing, American Media Maggots, you can actually find a lot of shit out. So I did a little internet digging. JP Morgan Chase and BlackRock are backing an investor to rebuild Ukraine, requiring about $500 billion. That amount of money I mentioned before, that's just the start. Okay? Would always ask and pose questions. Would JP Morgan Chase or BlackRock invest a penny unless they believed they could make a staggering fuck ton amount of money on their returns? So who has hitched his star to JP Morgan Chase? / is he still, because he's lost, I think he has lost his security clearance. Oh, he's going to do his level ass best to make sure that he is most def linked to JP Morgan Chase. Who wants us to get out of endless wars? Donald Trump. You see what happened? You see what is happening? You understand? You get the concept? Let's go back and listen, now that I've made that point, to Marco Rubio school the imbecile on the left about what really happened with Zelensky and the plays that occurred last Friday.
As he does, but maybe he doesn't. And that active, open undermining of efforts to bring about peace is deeply frustrating for everyone who's been involved in communications with them leading up to today. And I think we should apologize for wasting our time for a meeting that was going to end the way it did.
You yourself have said previously that Putin cannot be trusted in negotiations. That was the point that President Zelensky was ultimately making during that conversation, is that
how can you be so stupid as to ask this? If Putin is in Russia and represents Russia, with whom are you going to negotiate if not Putin? You know, it's like, okay, it's a visual. I'm going to have to take this off for a second. The visual is eye rolling 1A and 1B together. Morons.
there cannot be an agreement without security guarantees, because he was talking about all the ceasefire agreements before, or agreements that Putin has just blown past. I mean, do you still feel that way, that Putin cannot be trusted in these negotiations?
Well, I was there yesterday when the president said in front of the media that our approach is going to be trust but verify. President Trump's made deals his entire life. He's not going to get suckered into some deal that's not a real deal. We all understand this. We understand it on our end for certain. And so the goal here is to get to a place we have to explore whether peace is possible. I've said this repeatedly. I don't know. I think it is. based on what they've said so far, but we have to explore that. How else is this war going to end? I ask people, what is the European plan to end this war? I can tell you what one foreign minister told me, and I'm not going to say who it was, but I can tell you what one of them told me, and that is that the war goes on for another year. And at that point, Russia will feel so weakened that they'll beg for a peace. That's another year of killing, another year of dying, another year of destruction. And by the way, not a very realistic plan in my point of view.
No, stop. Russia has so many people to throw at this war, just like Stalin threw people at World War II. Those who were scholars of history and studied history knew that Stalin would line up soldiers, someone behind them would say, go forward, into a horrible thrall, into horrible resistance. And if anyone turned, any soldier, any Russian soldier turned or appeared to act cowardly in the slightest, they would get shot and killed from behind. So if they go back, they're going to get killed. If they go forward, they're going to get killed. Stalin threw bodies at the problem. Putin has no problem throwing bodies at the problem, and a bunch of norks too. He doesn't mind.
So if there's a chance of peace, even if it's a 1% chance, that needs to be explored. And that's what President Trump is trying to do here.
President Trump said just when he was leaving.
Did you see her smirk? Little smirk on her face. She's so haughty. Haughy. Massively arrogant.
The White House after that meeting that he doesn't think President Zelensky wants peace. But isn't that why the Ukrainian leader was in the Oval Office for that meeting today?
Well, he was in the Oval Office to sign a minerals rights deal. That's what he was in the Oval Office to sign today.
Why would he do that? Listen to Rubio.
But again, when you have comments that deliberately appear to be after having discussed this repeatedly, deliberately appear to be geared towards making the argument that peace is not possible. Again, he turns to the vice president. What kind of diplomacy are you talking about? Almost as if to say, these people, you can't deal with them. You can't have any negotiations with Putin because he can't be trusted and you're just wasting your time on negotiations. Well, he's directly, basically undermining everything the president.
I repeat, then who the hell are you going to negotiate with on behalf of Russia? This is ridiculously stupid.
Has told them he's trying to do. Look, there's no need for that. You start to suspect, does he really want an end to this war? Does he just think that, we have to do whatever he says and give him anything he wants without any end game? That was the Biden strategy. We were funding a stalemate. We were funding a meat grinder. And unfortunately, for the Ukrainians, the Russians have more meat to grind, and they don't care about human life. We've seen it, human waves, and North Koreans, etc. And so this is a very complex thing. It's very delicate. It's very costly. It's very bloody. It needs to be brought to an end, but it isn't going to be brought to an end with public
little smirk, no problem.
Pronouncements and maximalist demands in the public, but in real diplomacy, the vice president was right.
When you say they don't care about life, are you talking about the Russians or the Ukrainians?
Okay. Hashtag not fucking listening to what Rubio is saying.
Well, the Russians, they're conscripting by the hundreds of thousands. They brought in North Korean troops that were slaughtered in Kursk, and they keep going because they got more people. That's the other fact. Look, and it's, again, we go back to the same point. I'm not going to fall into this trap of the who's bad and who's evil. People can make those conclusions. People have seen how this narrative is played out and where we are today and how this all started and so forth. The point now is it has to end. And the way it ends is you get people to a negotiating table. And the president, who's the ultimate deal maker, knows you don't get people to a negotiating table when you're calling them names and you're accusing them of things, because at the end of the day, this is not a political campaign. Okay, this is high stakes international diplomacy and an effort to bring about an end to a very, very dangerous war.
Suka.
But you yourself, sir, have said before that you believe Putin is a war criminal, that is a widely accepted fact. You've called him a butcher, and you.
I repeat, for the people who are so fucking stupid like this bitch, then who do you negotiate with? I know, let's negotiate with Ecuador on behalf of Russia. You ridiculously stupid bint.
You said that as a Secretary of State, you do believe it's important for someone with such global influence as you have to speak with that kind of moral clarity.
Yeah, and at this moment, as Secretary of State, my job working for the president is to deliver peace, to end this conflict and end this war. Ultimately, that is the job of the State Department. The State Department doesn't fight wars, it ends them. It tries to end them. And that's usually, by the way, celebrated. I mean, throughout history, I've watched presidents that bring about an end to wars and conflicts, and people celebrate that. They applaud it. I think we should be very proud and happy that we have a president whose prime objective is not to get into wars, but to prevent wars and to get out of wars. That is a very noble, laudable goal. Everyone should be applauding it, and he should be given the space to do that, not undermined by demands that he call Putin names or that we say things that impede the ability to conduct real diplomacy, as the vice president said today.
Cui Bono, who profits from war? Everyone. Everyone who is a Democrat and a Republican who wants this to continue, let me be absolutely clear. They're a profiteer. Somehow, somewhere, they're profiting because of this war. We know Milley does. We know the EU does. We know that the military-industrial complex here and across the pond, that certainly does. We know how this shindig works. We've seen it before. We will continue to see it again. Another in a continuing series of reasons as to why Trump is hated. The spice must flow. War is Arrakis. The spice has to flow. Donald John Trump is attempting to interrupt the flow of spice.
To follow up on what you just said a moment ago, are you saying that you have doubts that President Zelensky wants this war to come to an end?
What I have doubts about is whether he's willing to say and do the things that we need in order to get a negotiation. Again, this has been going on for 10 days. And, to see things in the press saying we're not coordinating with the Ukrainians, that's absolutely false. Over the last 10 days, the Ukrainians have met with the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of State, the Vice President of the United States, had a phone call with President Trump, and he was in the Oval Office today. I've talked to the Foreign Minister of Ukraine 3 times in the last 10 days. The argument that we're not engaging, but yet you keep reading these press accounts about, they're leaving us out. We're not involved. We're not engaged. None of these things are true, and it continues. So all that led up to today in a deep sense of frustration. And my hope is that this all can be reset and maturity can kick in and some pragmatism, because this war tonight, people will die in Ukraine. Tonight, people will die in this conflict. We're trying to bring an end to this conflict, which is unsustainable. It's an unsustainable, bloody war that has to come to an end. And right now, the only leader in the world that can even have a chance of bringing about an end to this is named President Donald Trump. And we need to give him the opportunity to try and do that. And when you see efforts to impede it, when you tell someone, don't say, let's not talk about these things. Let's not go in this direction because it makes it harder for us to engage. And they insist on doing it anyways. You start to wonder. I don't like to impugn people's motives, but you start to wonder what's behind it. So look, again, let's hope that this can be salvaged, but I'm not sure after today.
You don't believe.
Okay. I've said this time and again, as have a lot of people, mostly not the American media maggots. Trump offered a ceasefire. That's just a step in getting things going. Why wouldn't you want to engage in a ceasefire, then see if, like Gaza, like Hamas, if they will agree to it? But somebody has to make a step somewhere. Zelensky didn't even want to talk about a ceasefire. All he wants is money. Keep it going. Keep that spice rolling. And equipment and weapons. But he's running out of people. Just how do you negotiate with an individual that apparently very readily doesn't give the slightest shit about their very own people? We spoke about disgusting. We spoke about the Democrats. Whose side is Zelensky on in the first place?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to Reaver of Common Sense. where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back. It's the final half hour of the show. I am going to be wrapping it up. I believe at the top of the hour, I don't think there's any overtime coming. Please subscribe to my channel here on the SHR Media YouTube network. I'm not looking at YouTube right now, but I think we got 68 more subscriptions. If we could get 68 more people to subscribe, we would break that magic 500 number. Please share the show, and each subscription gets me, obviously, more vodka. I mean, come on, give me a break here. Let's go back for the final question between this lovely little bit. I don't even care who her name is, and Marco Rubio.
Believe that this can be, you're not sure that this can be salvaged. I mean, can this relationship between Zelensky and Trump be repaired in your view?
I think anything is possible, but it has to go back to the point that President Trump is interested in being involved in this for the purposes of bringing about an enduring and lasting peace. That's what he wants to achieve. And I think if I'm a country, okay, that's involved in a war with a bigger country, who's losing thousands of people, who's had 3 million people leave my country because they can't be there, who is facing these challenges, I would be thanking a president who's trying to help bring about an end to this war. I would be thanking him, and I would be supportive of what he's trying to do, at least in my public pronouncements and in my public posture. And we didn't see that today, and we haven't seen that for the last few days. Now, will that change? I hope so. It should for the purposes of global peace and stability in Europe and around the world.
And my source tonight is the Secretary of State.
I said this is nothing more than a job interview. All Zelensky had to do was go in, wear a suit, be thankful, say hello, because it was pretty much preordained. If you're listening appropriately to Marco Rubio, it was already ordained. This was set up. The only ambush that occurred in the White House in that office was Zelensky going backwards and sideways. When agreements had already been made, that was supposed to be the handshaking, backslapping all around. Look, congratulations. We got whatever the hell this was going to be. We got mineral rights. We're supporting Ukraine. And by the way, Zelensky was looking for security agreements. If you have United States representatives seeking minerals on the ground in Ukraine, that's going to make Russia think twice about attacking. There's your fucking security agreement, asshole. And then I kind of had to look far and wide for this, because this is so strange. I mean, you got Tucker Carlson talking about this stuff. Now you got RFK Jr. talking about this. What is he saying?
This is a war that should have never happened. It's a war the Russians tried repeatedly to settle on terms that were very, very beneficial to Ukraine and us. The major thing they wanted was for us to keep NATO out of the Ukraine. The big military contractors want to add new countries to NATO all the time. Why? Because then that country has to conform its military purchases to NATO weapon specifications.
Stop. They have to conform their purchases to NATO weapons specifications. They're very detailed and involve what? Oh, that's right, an assload of money.
Which means certain companies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing, and Lockheed, get a trapped market. In March of 2022, we committed $113 billion. Just to give you an example, we could have built a home for almost every homeless person in this country. We then committed another $24 billion since then, 2 months ago, and now President Biden's asking for another $60 billion. But the big, big expenses are going to come after the war, when we have to rebuild all the things that we destroyed.
And remember, I said, oh, JP Morgan Chase, BlackRock, whoa, there's an opportunity.
Mitch McConnell was asked, can we really afford to spend $113 billion to Ukraine? He said, don't worry. It's not really going to Ukraine.
Stop. Listen, this is the dealio right here. Listen, one of the major reasons I wanted to do this show tonight. Let me go back just a little bit.
Really going to Ukraine.
It's going to American defense manufacturers.
And open your American hard-earned taxpayer dollar eyes. You're paying for it all. The American taxpayer funds the entire planet.
So he just admitted it's a money laundering scheme. And who do you think owns every one of those companies? BlackRock. So Tim Scott, during the Republican debate, said, don't worry, it's not a gift to Ukraine, it's a loan. So raise your hand if you think that that loan's never getting paid back. Yeah, of course it's not. So why do they call it a loan? Because if they call it a loan, they can impose loan conditions. And what are the loan conditions that we impose on? Number one, an extreme austerity program, so that if you're poor in Ukraine, you're going to be poor forever. Number two, most important, Ukraine has to put all of its government-owned assets up for sale to multinational corporations, including all of its agricultural land, the biggest single asset in Europe. Ukraine.
Stop right there. You know about the Ukrainian flag, right? Yellow above, blue below. What does that mean? Yellow of the sun and the ground, the fertile soil below. Ukraine is the European Union and all of Europe's breadbasket. That's what the flag means.
There's been 1,000 years of war fought over that land. It's the richest farmland in the world. It's the breadbasket of Europe. 500,000 kids almost. Ukrainians have died to keep that land as part of Ukraine. They almost certainly didn't know about this loan condition. They've already sold 30% of it. The buyers were DuPont, Cargill, and Monsanto. Who do you think owns all of those companies? Yeah, BlackRock. And then in December, President Biden gave out the contract to rebuild Ukraine. And who do you think got that contract? BlackRock. So they're doing.
Oh, and JP Morgan Chase. Just thought I'd throw that in.
This right in front of us. They don't even care that we know anymore, because they know that they can get away with it. And how do they know that? Because they have a strategy. And that strategy is an old strategy, which is they keep us at war with each other. They keep us hating on each other. They keep the Republicans and Democrats fighting each other, black against white, and all these divisions that they. Oh,
Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it gets worse. Just when you thought, oh, don't tell me that this is true. I don't want to think this of my country. I don't want to think this of my nation. I don't want to think this of the European Union, of the EU. I don't want to think this about American corporations. I don't want to think of this about contractors. I don't want to think this about the 17 intelligence agencies in the United States. I don't want to think that we could possibly be this evil. We are benevolent. We are kind. Maybe personally, on a personal level, we are. We're generous to a fault. And yet, beyond that generosity, the federal government has decided that it's going to continue to ass fuck you, then brazenly walk into your home, kick all the chairs and the sofa upside down, and look for the pennies that you attempted to keep for yourself. This government has got to stop doing this. When is torches and pitchfork time? Or are we just going to stand there in the fetal position, or fall down, I should say, in the fetal position and say, that was nice. Thank you, sir. Can I have another? And the people that are the benefactors of this are the ones that are bleating the loudest because you've discovered their scam, their grift. And the guy who is a billionaire is the guy that wants this shit to stop. He's not BlackRock. He's not JP Morgan Chase. He's probably done business with them, but he is nowhere close to their league. Nowhere. None. Zip. Zero. I haven't even gotten to happy stories yet. Let's look at the comments. I haven't looked in that for a while. Jersey Joe says, George Bush's former communication director went to MSNBC and said she hopes the young man who survived pediatric cancer and wants to become a police officer does not commit suicide because of something like January 6th. Read that again. If this isn't endemic and wholly representative of these assholes and these assholes, I don't know what is. She hopes he doesn't commit suicide. Because of something like January 6th. Folks, who the fuck thinks like this? Who has thoughts like this? I am telling you, and you know full damned well, that 90% of the opposition by the Democrats, leftists, and the globalists, what I call the DLG, is simply because it's Donald John Trump. Not because they're necessarily in love with the ideas. They might be convinced, but they are not in any way, shape, or form going to accede anything even closely, slightly, a molecule of resembling a win to DJT. That's why they trust me, take this to the bank. That is exactly why they couldn't find it within themselves. And they told each other at the very beginning, this is what we're going to do. We are going to unify and coalesce around little signs and pink pussy dresses. And this guy is he's going to take one for the team. And he did, The poor disabled black man from Texas was so put upon. They asked him to leave. Ted Lieu in the background going, thank God it's not me. I don't mind if it's you, but thank God it's not me. This is all pre-planned, all because of who it is. The only person on the Democrat side who had even the slightest bit of bolulus was John Fetterman. And trust me, when I suggest that they were going to do and have done probably their very level best to make sure that he doesn't go anywhere and he doesn't do anything. And all the nice committees or maybe the nice office that he may have had in the future, unless he comes around and bends to their will, he's not going to be going anywhere. And by the way, in the next campaign, unless he does in fact come around, how much money is he going to get from the DNC? I wonder. It probably won't be, as I indicated before, the proverbial ass load of cash. And GH, not going to happen. And then there's Trudeau. This is a gentleman that I don't believe I've heard before, named, I think he's a Texas representative, Wesley Hunt. And he was on the Steve Gruber show, and he's talking about Trudeau.
What do you make of the tariffs, first of all? Is it something you're comfortable with? Does it concern you on some?
Tariffs. They're talking about tariffs. I will say this again, just very briefly. Tariffs are a tool. Tariffs are a tool. For those of you who just tuned in, tariffs are a tool. If you go back to my previous show, I said tariffs are a tool. Today, I'm saying tariffs are a tool. Tomorrow and Thursday, I'll probably be saying something similar to tariffs are a tool. So if you see DJT, Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, decide that he's going to change up his brain housing group because of tariffs, it's a tool to be used and wielded to get to a goal. Tariffs are not in and of themselves the end game on this, but everybody thinks, oh yeah, it is. Yeah, they're, yeah, okay, let's play this.
Levels, what's your take?
It doesn't concern me at all. I mean, President Trump is basically leveraging America's strength to make people pay their fair share. And by the way, Canada and Mexico, they are not only covered by us from a military standpoint, but they're covered by us economically just by virtue of being on North American continent with the most powerful country in the entire world. So I really have no tolerance for Canada talking about, entering a trade war with the most powerful country in the entire world based on what we provide for them. So again, this is Trudeau trying to flex. He's a lame duck. It's not going to last very long, and President Trump, in the end, will get his way as he tends to do. You bring up fentanyl and what's happening at our southern border. Keep in mind that over 2 years ago, we passed H.R. 2 to secure our border, and the Hippocratic Democrats were the ones that told us that we couldn't secure the border, that we were against it, even though we passed H.R. 2 2 years ago. And you mean to tell me that within 5 weeks, President Trump has literally fixed our southern border? Fentanyl is no longer pouring into our country at the rate that it...
How does that happen? How does that happen? If it happens, because if you have half a brainulus, you're cognizant of the fact that this was entirely intentional. The stroke of a pen. ICE, Border Patrol. When I went down to FLETC, ICE, Border Patrol, DHS, they all go down to FLETC. I can't tell you when I went to FLETC, very briefly, all those guys in the USBP, they're foaming to do their job. That's why they went there. That's why they hired on. That's why they wore that green uniform. Let them go. Unleash them. Let them do their job. The only alternative is this was intentional, completely intentional. Screw America. Screw the actual American. Screw the American taxpayer.
It was before he was president. When Biden was president, we had enough fentanyl pouring into this country to kill every single American 6 times. That has now come to an end. The cartels are no longer running our border. We are running our sovereign nation yet again. And I don't really care what Trudeau does. Guess what? At the end of the day, you will bend the knee.
That's true. Trudeau is a lame duck. He's not doing all that well. Germany wasn't doing all that well. The EU wasn't doing all that well because the moderate to moving to the right individuals are starting to check the leftists. And they absolutely hate that. They despise that. So just remember, I'm Putin's puppet. And if you listen to this show, you're Putin's puppet too. Anybody that asks questions is Putin's puppet. As I said, Ukraine, Cui Bono. You've seen tonight who benefits. Always ask who benefits from anything, everything, any deal, any negotiation, any interaction between humans. Who benefits? Wait a minute. Isn't this Putin's puppet too? Here's Bill Clinton in about a minute and a half. Wow. He's got to be Putin's puppet. Oh, he said some horribly conciliatory words about Putin. Listen.
Look, Mr. Putin he's very smart.
But you know him better than most people.
Yeah, I do.
What was he like behind closed doors, away from, that sort of...
He was very smart. Oh, no. Bill. No, you don't mean that.
The public utterances.
Smart and remarkably, we had a really good, blunt relationship.
How blunt?
Why would you have a good relationship with a Ruski? But clearly, Bill Clinton, Putin's puppet.
Brutally blunt.
Ever fisticuffs?
No, but I think the right strategy most of the time but it's frustrating to people in your line of work. You should be brutally honest with people in private. And then if you want them to help you, try to avoid embarrassing them in public.
Right.
Now, sometimes they do things which make it impossible for you to keep quiet. But by and large, I found all the people I dealt with appreciated it if I told them the truth. How I honestly felt and what our interests were and what our objectives were. And they also appreciated it when I didn't kick them around in public for as long as I couldn't kick them around. So I that's my experience. And
did Putin ever renege on a personal agreement he made to you?
He did not.
So behind closed doors, he could be trusted.
He kept his word in all the deals we made.
And that's all you can say. That's the best that you can say. So honestly, realistically, is Bill Clinton Putin's puppet? I can distinctly remember saying or hearing back in 1991 during the inauguration of that guy, Bill Clinton, who was just on. I knew personally the sniper that was in the Capitol turret during the inauguration. And he spoke about Bill Clinton. And he said something that I found very interesting. He said when Bill Clinton would walk into a room, not Hillary Clinton, he would take the air out of the room and people would immediately notice him. That said, Bill Clinton was the consummate politician in terms of he started one way during his term, got slashed and hacked, and decided that he was going to take another tack. Time to adjust the jib, because things aren't going this way quite so well, not so swimmingly. I'm going to make an adjustment. The consummate politician knows how to adjust to the prevailing political prairie winds, as I am fond of saying. And so Bill Clinton was the consummate politician. Hillary Clinton is just a piece of trash. Period. End of statement. Let me go back to comments. Jersey Joe is right. Every time I think Democrats, can't go lower, they go lower. It's true. They never fail to disappoint in terms of that. So it's very true. Absolutely correct. This is going to be the final story for the night. And I truly believe this is what happened. Let me add this. This is a gentleman in the New York Post, Michael Goodwin, who says that, as many of us suspected, that when Zelensky goes into this room with primarily Democrats, I don't know of a Republican that was in there at the time, they essentially, I believe, blew up his skirts, Zelensky's skirts, and said, Mister, you need to go back into that room when you're there and show Trump who's boss. And people use these 5 words constantly, and I'm really hesitant to use them now, but they're so apt. I almost can't use them, can't not use them. Failed to read the room. Zelensky failed to read the room. But he was led that way, I believe, from the Democrats in that meeting prior to going out and sitting on the chair. He read the room, but he read the wrong room. He read the room where the Democrats were telling him that he's the strong man in this equation. And you need to show who's boss. It's like, you're going to show Trump who's boss. Does that not blow your brain? As in, you know what? Just absolutely incredible. Brain blown. That yet this little idiot is sufficiently convincible or malleable, let's put it that way, malleable to go into another room, be told what a great character he is, what a strong man, what a powerful man he is in Ukraine, representing all these wonderful people that he won't cut a ceasefire for. Now you go out and you show Trump who's boss. That didn't go well. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for being here tonight with me. 2 hours of what I consider to be great buttery political goodness. And damn it, Jim, I didn't even get to one happy story. And I had a lot of happy stories. But, you know, on the show, that's how it goes. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to everyone who listened live. Thanks to everybody who was on Rumble, who was on the SHR Media YouTube channel, who was on my X channel and Twitch and all the great folks at KLRN. Thanks for being here. And thanks also in particular for watching the show later on in either restreaming or podcast or wherever you get your finest podcasts. I hope it's me, but there's no guarantee of that. So, as per normal, promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, Shure and Electro Voice microphones, my beautiful Arrakis board, Pratt & Whitney engines. Look, folks, Pratt & Whitney engines. And, of course, thanks to my KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I shall be consorting in less than 10 minutes. So, everybody, God bless, take care, be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.